A little girl approached the police with determination in her eyes, saying only, "Follow me at home." What she revealed that day would break even the toughest officer's heart, exposing a truth so devastating it left everyone in tears. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from. It was a peaceful Tuesday morning in Savannah, Georgia. The spring air carried the sweet scent of magnolias and the gentle hum of a city just waking up. Officer Michael Johnson sat in his patrol car at the corner of Maple Street, sipping coffee from his thermos and watching the neighborhood come to life. After 23 years on the force, he believed he'd witnessed every possible human drama unfold on these streets. The seasoned policeman had broken up domestic disputes, chased down thieves, and even delivered a baby once in the back of his vehicle. Nothing surprised him anymore, or so he thought. Michael checked his watch and made a note in his logbook. The morning had been quiet, just how he liked it. A few more hours of patrol, then he could head back to the station and finish his paperwork before dinner with his mother, Rosa. She had promised to make her famous chicken stew tonight. The officer was just about to take another sip of coffee when movement caught his eye. Something small and fast was coming down the sidewalk. He straightened in his seat, setting the thermos down as his professional instincts kicked in. A child was running, not the carefree sprint of playground games, but the desperate flight of someone in trouble. As the figure drew closer, Michael could see it was a little girl, no older than 7, her small legs pumping furiously beneath a wrinkled pink dress that had seen better days. Her brown hair flew wildly around her face, tangled and unkempt. What struck him most were her eyes, wide with fear and brimming with tears that streamed down her flushed cheeks. She clutched something to her chest as she ran, a teddy bear so worn and loved that much of its fur had been rubbed away, one button eye hanging precariously by a thread. The stuffed animal bounced against her as she ran, clearly precious cargo despite its ragged condition. Michael immediately opened his car door, concern etching deep lines into his weathered face. In all his years of service, he developed an instinct for trouble, and every alarm in his mind was ringing. This wasn't a child running late for school or playing a game. This was a little girl in distress, and whatever had sent her running toward a police officer with such desperation couldn't be good. As she spotted his uniform, the girl seemed to find a final burst of energy, her small feet pounding the pavement as she made a beeline straight for him. Her face a mixture of relief and urgent fear. Michael Johnson's 23 years on the force had honed his instincts to razor sharpness. Something in the little girl's desperate sprint sent alarm bells ringing through his mind. He abandoned his coffee cup on the dashboard and stepped out of his patrol car, his movements quick but measured. The child arrived at his feet breathless, her small chest heaving with exertion. Her wrinkled pink dress was askew, and those wide eyes, filled with raw, unfiltered fear, told him everything he needed to know before she even spoke. "Officer, please, you have to help me," she gasped, the words tumbling out between ragged breaths. Her small hands clutched a ragged teddy bear like it was her only anchor in a storm. Michael knelt down, bringing himself to her eye level. The concrete sidewalk was hard against his knee, but he barely noticed. Years of experience had taught him that children in distress needed to be approached with gentleness. "Hey there," he said softly, his voice calm despite the urgency he felt. "Can you tell me your name?" "I'm Anna Brown," she whispered, her voice breaking as fresh tears welled up. She hugged her stuffed companion tighter, seeking comfort from the worn toy. "It's my mom. She can't get up." A sob escaped her lips, and she struggled to continue. "She tried to cook breakfast, but she fell, and now she won't wake up right." The officer felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. The girl's words painted a clear picture of a medical emergency. He noted how Anna's messy brown hair stuck to her tear-streaked face, how her small shoulders carried a burden no child should bear. "Anna," he said, keeping his voice steady, "you did exactly the right thing coming to find help." The little girl nodded, sniffling. "Mom always said if something really bad happens, I should find a police officer." Michael glanced quickly around the quiet Savannah street. searching for any sign of another adult who might be with her. Finding none, he returned his attention to Anna, whose eyes never left his face, desperately seeking reassurance. "I'm Officer Michael Johnson," he said, introducing himself properly, "and I'm going to help your mum, okay? Can you show me where she is?" Anna nodded vigorously, clutching her bear with one hand while reaching out to grab his sleeve with the other, as if afraid he might disappear if she didn't hold on tight. "She's at home," Anna said, her voice steadying slightly now that help had arrived. "Please hurry. She looked really sick this time." This time, the words echoed in Michael's mind as he stood, ready to follow wherever this brave little girl would lead him. A wave of dread swept through Michael Johnson as Anna pointed shakily down the street, her small finger trembling. The teddy bear dangled from her other hand, worn and loved, much like the child herself appeared to be. "My house is just 3 blocks that way," she explained, her voice quivering with a mixture of hope and fear. "Please, will you come?" The trust in her eyes was absolute, the kind of pure faith only a child could offer to a uniform, a badge, a promise of safety. The officer knelt down, meeting Anna's gaze. "I need to know exactly what happened to your mum, Anna. Did she fall? Is she breathing?" His training kicked in, but the gentleness in his voice remained. "She was making pancakes," Anna whispered, clutching her bear tighter. "Then she got all dizzy and fell. She's awake, but not really awake. She told me to find help before she started talking funny." Tears welled in her eyes again, and I promised I'd be brave. Michael glanced around Savannah's quiet morning streets. No pedestrians, no neighbors, no one else to witness this child's desperate mission. The weight of responsibility settled firmly on his shoulders. This wasn't just another call. This was a little girl's entire world hanging in the balance. "Of course, Anna, we're going to help your mama," he assured her, his decision made. The seasoned officer reached for his radio, pressing the call button. "Dispatch, this is Johnson. I need medical assistance at—" He paused, looking down at Anna. "What's your address, you sweetheart?" 217 Magnolia Lane, she recited carefully, the way children do when taught important information. He relayed the details to dispatch, requesting an ambulance while keeping his tone measured to avoid frightening Anna further. "Possible medical emergency. I'm heading there now with the reporting party, a minor child." Michael stood, offering his hand. Anna took it without hesitation, her tiny fingers disappearing in his palm. They began walking quickly, the officer shortening his stride as much as possible, though Anna still nearly had to run to keep up with him. "You're doing exactly the right thing," he told her as they hurried along the sidewalk. "Your mama would be very proud of how brave you're being." Anna looked up at him, her brown eyes serious beyond their years. "As I'm the only one who could help her," she said simply. "She always says we take care of each other." The morning sun cast long shadows as they moved through the quiet neighborhood, an unlikely pair united by urgency, a uniformed protector and a determined child, racing against time toward a mother who couldn't wait. As they made their way down the sidewalk, Anna Brown's words spilled out between quick breaths, her small legs working double time to keep pace with Officer Michael Johnson. Her teddy bear swung from her tight grip, its worn fabric catching the morning sunlight. "My mama's name is Laura Brown," she explained, her voice steadying slightly now that help was on the way. "She's the best mama in the whole world." Anna glanced up at Michael, with eyes that held wisdom beyond her 7 years. "She makes me pancakes shaped like animals when I'm sad, and she reads to me every night. Even when she's really tired." The officer nodded encouragingly, maintaining his brisk pace while staying attentive to the child's words. "But she's been sick for a long time," Anna continued, her voice dropping to nearly a whisper. "She tries to hide it, but I can tell. Sometimes she has to sit down in the middle of doing laundry, and she takes these pills that make her hands shake." The little girl's forehead creased with worry. "Last week, she couldn't get out of bed for 2 whole days." Michael felt a knot forming in his stomach. The situation sounded increasingly serious. "Does your mum see a doctor, Anna?" he asked gently. Anna shook her head. "We used to go, but then we moved." And Mama said we needed special papers first. Her small shoulders lifted in a shrug that carried the weight of adult concerns. She says everything will be okay soon. They turned onto Magnolia Lane, a modest street lined with small homes and scattered oak trees. The neighborhood was quiet this morning, with only the distant sound of a lawnmower breaking the silence. Anna pointed ahead, her pace quickening. "That's our house," she whispered, her voice trembling with a mixture of hope and terror. Michael spotted the small blue house immediately. It stood apart from its neighbors not by size or grandeur, but by the evident care that had gone into its modest appearance. White shutters framed the windows, and despite limited resources, a simple garden of marigolds and daisies lined the short walkway to the front door. A child's bicycle leaned against the porch railing, its pink tassels fluttering in the gentle breeze. The officer took a deep breath, preparing himself for whatever awaited inside. In his 23 years on the force, he'd learned that homes like this, humble but loved, often held the most heartbreaking stories. He placed a reassuring hand on Anna's shoulder as they approached the front steps. "You did the right thing coming to get help," he told her softly. "Let's go see your mama now." Anna Brown stopped at the weathered front door of the small blue house on Magnolia Lane, her tiny fingers grabbing Officer Michael Johnson's sleeve with surprising strength. Her wide eyes, still glistening with tears, looked up at him with a mixture of hope and terror. "I promise you won't let them take her away," she pleaded, her voice barely above a whisper. "She's not a bad mom, she just needs help to get strong again. Sometimes she gets really tired, but she always reads me stories and makes sure I brush my teeth." Michael felt his heart twist painfully in his chest. In his 23 years on the force, he'd seen too many families torn apart by well-meaning but impersonal systems. The desperation in the child's voice told him everything he needed to know about her fears. He knelt down on one knee, bringing himself to Anna's eye level. His uniform creased as he balanced on the worn welcome mat, but he didn't care. What mattered was the frightened 7-year-old, clutching her ragged teddy bear like a lifeline. "I promise," Michael said firmly, meeting her gaze directly. "We're here to help your mom, not to take anyone away. That's my job, to protect families, not separate them." Anna studied his face carefully, searching for any sign of deception, with the surprising perceptiveness of a child who had grown up too quickly. After a moment, she gave a solemn nod, apparently satisfied with what she saw in the officer's eyes. "Okay," she whispered, her shoulders relaxing slightly. "Mama's inside." The little girl turned the doorknob with practiced ease and pushed the door open. Michael followed her into the house, immediately struck by the silence that enveloped them, not the peaceful quiet of a lazy afternoon, but the heavy stillness that accompanies worry and illness. The air felt thick with unspoken fears as they stepped into the modest entryway. Anna still clutched her teddy bear with one hand, while the other reached back instinctively for Michael's reassurance. He gave her small fingers a gentle squeeze, silently communicating his support. "Mama?" Anna called softly into the quiet house. "I brought help. I brought a police officer who's going to make everything better." The confidence in her voice, the absolute trust that Michael would indeed fix everything, weighed on him like a physical burden. He straightened his shoulders, determined not to let this brave little girl down. Whatever was waiting for them inside this house, he would find a way to keep his promise. Michael Johnson stepped cautiously through the doorway, his trained eyes quickly surveying the small home. Despite its modest appearance, the Brown residence was remarkably tidy, a stark contrast to the emergency unfolding within its walls. The kitchen told a story of interrupted morning routines, eggs still in their cracked shells beside a mixing bowl, a chair toppled sideways on the linoleum floor, and a half-filled coffee mug growing cold on the counter. "Mama! I brought help! I brought Officer Michael!" Anna called out, her small voice quivering with hope and fear. She clutched her teddy bear tighter, its worn fabric evidence of countless nights providing comfort. The officer noticed colourful drawings pinned to the refrigerator with alphabet magnets, crayon masterpieces depicting two stick figures holding hands beneath a yellow sun. One labelled Mama stood tall beside a smaller figure with Anna written in wobbly letters. These simple illustrations spoke volumes about the bond between mother and daughter. A laboured, shallow breathing sound drew their attention toward the living room. Michael followed the little girl through the narrow hallway, passing a collection of framed photographs that chronicled their life together. In one, Laura Brown beamed while holding a birthday cake with 5 candles, Anna's face lit with delight. Another captured them at what appeared to be a local park, autumn leaves swirling around them as they laughed. A third showed a tender bedtime moment, Laura reading to her daughter, their heads touching as they shared a storybook adventure. "She loves taking pictures," Anna whispered, noticing his gaze on the frames. "Says memories are the most important treasure." The officer nodded, feeling the weight of these frozen moments of happiness. Each photograph revealed a mother doing her best, despite what must have been mounting health challenges. The walls told the story of a family that celebrated small joys and clung to each other through hardship. They entered the living room, where the sound of strained breathing grew more pronounced. The space was simply furnished but homey, a bookshelf overflowing with children's stories, a small television set, and a worn but clean sofa covered with a handmade patchwork quilt in faded blues and purples. Michael's heart sank as he followed Anna's determined steps toward the source of the labored breathing. The little girl moved with the solemn purpose of someone far beyond her 7 years, leading him directly to what she feared most and what she desperately hoped he could fix. Laura Brown lay motionless on the worn couch, her body barely making an impression beneath the colourful patchwork quilt that Anna had carefully pulled over her. The contrast between the vibrant fabric and Laura's ashen complexion was striking. Her skin had taken on a translucent quality, blue veins visible beneath the surface, and her chest rose and fell with shallow, laboured breaths. At 34, she appeared decades older, her illness having stolen the vitality from her once energetic frame. Michael approached cautiously, taking in the scene with practiced professionalism that couldn't quite mask his concern. The mother's eyelids fluttered weakly, consciousness seeming to slip away and return in waves. He knelt beside the couch, bringing himself to eye level with the struggling woman. "Mrs. Brown," he said softly, his voice gentle but clear enough to penetrate the fog of her condition. "I'm Officer Michael Johnson. Ina did exactly what you told her. She asked for help." Laura's eyes opened slightly wider at the mention of her daughter. She tried to lift her head but lacked the strength. Her lips parted, dry and cracked, as she struggled to form words. "Thank you," she managed in a whisper so faint Michael had to lean closer to hear. "I'm sorry. Anna shouldn't have had to do this." The police officer noticed how Laura's fingers trembled as she reached weakly for her daughter. Anna immediately took her mother's hand, squeezing it with all the fierce protectiveness a 7-year-old could muster. "It's okay, Mama," the child reassured, her small voice steady despite the tears welling in her eyes. "You told me to get help if something bad happened, and I did." Michael observed the interaction, noting the deep bond between mother and daughter. Even in her weakened state, Laura's eyes held nothing but love and concern for Anna. The officer recognized the signs of a chronic illness, the medication bottles on the side table, the way the furniture had been arranged for easy navigation, the emergency numbers posted prominently by the phone. "Help is on the way," he assured them both. Already hearing the distant wail of the ambulance he'd called, "We're going to take good care of both of you." Laura's eyes locked with his, conveying a silent, desperate plea that spoke volumes. This wasn't just about medical care, it was about keeping her family together. Michael nodded slightly, an unspoken promise passing between them. The woman seemed to relax just slightly, her trust cautiously given to this stranger who had answered her daughter's call for help. Anna squeezed her mother's hand tightly, her small fingers intertwining with Laura's weakened ones. The teddy bear lay forgotten beside them as the little girl's eyes filled with determination. "You told me to get help if something was really wrong," she said, her voice stronger than her 7 years would suggest. "This is really wrong, Mama." Laura Brown attempted a smile, though pain etched lines around her eyes. "You did good, sweetheart," she whispered, each word clearly requiring effort. Michael Johnson knelt beside the worn couch, feeling the weight of the moment. The air in the small living room seemed charged with both immense love and palpable fear. The officer had responded to thousands of calls throughout his career, but something about this little family struck him deeply. Perhaps the fierce protectiveness in Anna's eyes, or the quiet dignity Laura maintained, despite her obvious suffering. "Mrs. Brown," he said gently, "can you tell me what's happening? What kind of help do you need?" Through labored breaths, Laura explained her situation. She had been diagnosed with an autoimmune condition 3 years earlier, requiring daily medication to manage her symptoms. But when they'd moved to Savannah 2 months ago, seeking affordable housing after rent increases in their previous city, several crucial documents had been misplaced in the chaos of relocation. "My insurance cards, birth certificates, everything we needed," Laura explained, pausing frequently to gather strength. "I couldn't refill my prescriptions without them. Been trying to get replacements. But the bureaucracy," she trailed off, exhaustion evident. Anna filled in the gaps with the matter-of-fact awareness of a child who had grown up too quickly. "Mama's been getting sicker every day. She pretends she's okay when I'm around, but I hear her crying at night." Michael nodded, piecing together their story. The Browns had slipped through the cracks of the system, a single mother with chronic illness, isolated in a new city, lacking the documentation needed to access health care. With no extended family to help and limited financial resources, Laura had been forced to choose between medication and rent, between her health and keeping a roof over her daughter's head. "I've been managing," Laura insisted weakly. "Anna shouldn't have had to do this. But I did," Anna countered, her chin raised proudly. "Because we take care of each other." Michael placed a reassuring hand on Anna's shoulder. You did exactly right," he assured her, then turned to Laura. "And we're going to make sure you both get the help you need now. I promise you that." The officer's mind was already racing through resources, contacts, and solutions. This family's health crisis was about to become his personal mission. Michael reached for his radio, his movements calm and deliberate despite the urgency of the situation. "Dispatch, this is Officer Johnson. I need an ambulance at 247 Magnolia Lane. Female, mid-30s, unresponsive but breathing. Possible medical emergency related to an autoimmune condition." His voice remained steady, though his eyes never left Laura's pale face. Anna Brown stood nearby, her small fingers still wrapped tightly around her ragged teddy bear. The stuffed animal, worn from years of love and comfort, pressed against her chest as if it could somehow shield her heart from breaking. Her eyes, wide with fear, yet somehow hopeful, fixed on the police officer who had followed her home. "Officer Michael," she whispered, her voice barely audible above her mother's labored breathing. "You'll help us stay together, right?" The question hung in the air, weighted with all the fears of a 7-year-old who understood more about potential separation than any child should. Michael knelt down, meeting Anna at eye level. He noticed how her knuckles had turned white from clutching the bear so tightly. "I promise you, Anna, we're going to do everything possible to keep you and your mum together." He glanced at Laura, who managed a weak nod of gratitude. "The doctors will help your mother get better, and I'll make sure you're both taken care of." Laura reached out with trembling fingers, brushing her daughter's messy brown hair. "Anna did exactly what she was supposed to," she whispered, each word a struggle. "My brave girl." "You both are going to be okay," Michael assured them, though he knew the road ahead wouldn't be simple. Without proper documentation, insurance, or extended family support, the Browns faced an uphill battle. Yet something about Anna's courage and Laura's fierce love for her daughter strengthened his resolve to help them navigate the system. In the distance, the wail of sirens grew louder, cutting through the morning quiet of Savannah. The sound brought both relief and new anxiety. Anna's shoulders tensed at the noise, and she moved closer to her mother's side. "They're coming to help," Michael explained gently. "The paramedics will take good care of your mama." Anna nodded solemnly, her eyes never leaving her mother's face. "I did the right thing, getting help." "You did exactly the right thing," Michael confirmed. "You're the bravest little girl I've ever met." The approaching sirens grew louder, bringing promise of medical help. Yet despite this glimmer of hope, fear still hung heavy in the air of the small blue house on Magnolia Lane. Fear of separation, of an uncertain future, and of the fragility of the family bond that Anna and Laura had fought so hard to maintain. The paramedics burst through the front door with practiced efficiency, their blue uniforms a blur as they rushed to Laura Brown's side. They worked with quiet urgency, checking her vitals and gently transferring her onto the stretcher. Anna's small fingers remained intertwined with her mother's limp hand, her ragged teddy bear tucked under her other arm. "I need to stay with my mama," Anna insisted, her voice trembling but determined. One of the paramedics exchanged a sympathetic glance with Michael Johnson. "Sweetheart, we need to move quickly," the paramedic explained, securing the straps around Laura. Anna's eyes filled with fresh tears. Please don't take her away from me." Michael knelt beside the little girl, his voice steady and reassuring. "Anna, they need to help your mum right now. I promise we'll follow right behind them in my patrol car. You won't be alone." The child hesitated, her gaze darting between her unconscious mother and the officer who had become her lifeline in the past hour. Finally, she nodded, allowing Michael to gently lift her into his arms. Her small body felt fragile against his chest, reminding him of how vulnerable she truly was. Outside, neighbors had gathered on their porches, watching with concerned expressions as the paramedics loaded Laura into the ambulance. Michael carried Anna to his patrol car, securing her in the passenger seat before radioing in his situation to dispatch. Within moments, they were following the ambulance's flashing lights toward Savannah General Hospital. The ride was eerily quiet. Anna sat clutching her teddy bear, her eyes fixed on the ambulance ahead. The silence was broken only by the occasional crackle of the police radio and Anna's soft, hesitant questions. "Is Mama going to be okay?" she finally whispered, her voice small against the hum of the engine. Michael glanced at her, seeing the fear etched across her young face. "The doctors at Savannah General are the best in the city. They'll do everything they can to help your mother," he said, choosing his words carefully. "But you were very brave today, Anna. Your mama would be so proud of you." "I did what she told me," Anna replied, stroking her bear's worn ear. "She always said if something was really wrong, I should find a police officer." Her chin trembled slightly. "She said police officers help people." Michael felt a lump form in his throat. "That's right, and I'm going to help both of you. I promise." As they pulled into the emergency entrance, Anna pressed her face against the window, watching as the paramedics rushed her mother through the sliding doors. Her small hand reached for Michael's, seeking reassurance in the chaos that had become her world. The sterile white walls of Savannah General Hospital seemed to close in around Anna Brown as she sat rigidly in the waiting area, her small fingers still clutching the ragged teddy bear. The 7-year-old refused to be separated from her mother, even as hospital staff gently suggested she might be more comfortable elsewhere. "I need to stay close to Mama," Anna insisted, her voice barely above a whisper. Her brown hair hung in tangled strands around her face, and her pink dress was wrinkled from the day's ordeal. Sophia, a nurse with kind eyes and a gentle touch, knelt beside the child. "Your mother is with our best doctors right now," she explained, placing a reassuring hand on Anna's shoulder. "We have a special family room with toys and books where you could rest while you wait." The little girl shook her head firmly. "I want to be here when Mama wakes up. She needs to see me first thing." Officer Michael Johnson hadn't left Anna's side since they'd arrived at the hospital. Though his shift had technically ended hours ago, he couldn't bring himself to abandon this brave child who had trusted him completely. He sat beside her, his uniform rumpled from the long day. "The doctors are taking very good care of your mother," Michael reassured her. You did exactly the right thing today, getting help when she needed it. Anna's eyes remained fixed on the double doors leading to the treatment area. Every time they swung open, she would straighten up, hopefully, only to slump back when it wasn't news about Laura. Sophia returned with a juice box and some crackers, which Anna accepted but barely touched. The nurse exchanged a concerned glance with Michael before returning to her duties, promising to check on Laura's status. Hours passed like this, Anna watching, waiting, refusing comfort. Michael stayed, making quiet calls to his mother to explain his absence, and to the precinct to update them on the situation. When Dr. Gabriela Costa finally emerged through those double doors, Anna immediately recognized her as the doctor who had been with her mother. The physician's face bore a gentle smile that sent waves of relief through the room before she'd spoken a single word. Anna jumped to her feet, the teddy bear dangling from one hand. "Is my mama okay?" she asked, her voice trembling with hope and fear. Dr. Costa approached them, her clipboard tucked under one arm. She knelt down to Anna's level, meeting the child's anxious gaze directly. The doctor's expression was kind but serious, understanding the weight of the moment for this little girl who had shown such extraordinary courage. "I have news about your mother," she said softly, as Anna and Michael both held their breath, waiting for words that could change everything. "Your mama is going to be okay, Anna," Dr. Gabriela Costa said, her gentle smile reaching her eyes as she knelt to the child's level. "She was very dehydrated and needs her medication. We're starting treatment right away." The doctor's voice carried the reassurance of someone who had delivered both good and bad news countless times. But today, thankfully, she could offer hope. Anna Brown's small shoulders relaxed visibly, her grip on the ragged teddy bear loosening for the first time since arriving at Savannah General. The worry lines on her young face softened as she looked up at Michael Johnson, who stood protectively beside her. Hope flickered in her eyes, a precious sight after hours of fear and uncertainty. "When can I see her?" Anna asked, her voice small but determined. "Very soon," the doctor promised. "The nurses are getting her comfortable right now." Michael placed a reassuring hand on Anna's shoulder. "Your mama's in good hands, kiddo." Dr. Costa glanced at her clipboard, then back at the officer. "We should contact other family members. Is there someone who can help with Anna while Laura recovers?" The little girl's expression immediately changed, her chin lifting with a mixture of pride and vulnerability. "It's just me and Mama," she declared. "We take care of each other." Her words carried the weight of someone far older than 7, someone who had shouldered responsibilities no child should have to bear. The doctor and officer exchanged concerned glances over Anna's head. The implications were clear. A single mother with a serious medical condition and no support system was a precarious situation. "No grandparents, aunts or uncles?" Dr. Costa asked gently. Anna shook her head, clutching her teddy bear closer. "Just us. Mama says we're a small but mighty team." Michael felt something shift inside him, a decision forming before he even consciously considered it. He'd seen too many children lost in the system, too many families torn apart by circumstances beyond their control. "I'll stay," he said firmly, surprising himself with the conviction in his voice. "Anna won't be alone." The little girl looked up at him, her eyes wide with gratitude and relief. "I promised your mama we'd help you both," Michael continued, his heart swelling with a sense of responsibility that went beyond his badge. "And I keep my promises." Dr. Costa nodded appreciatively. "I'll make sure you're updated on Laura's condition. The hospital has resources that might help with her ongoing care." Anna slipped her small hand into Michael's much larger one, a silent gesture of trust that spoke volumes. For the first time since this morning's desperate run, she wasn't alone in carrying the weight of her world. Dr. Gabriela Costa led Michael and Anna to a quiet corner of the hospital waiting room. Her gentle demeanor couldn't completely mask the concern in her eyes as she outlined Laura Brown's condition. "Laura will need to stay for at least 3 days," Dr. Costa explained, her voice soft but direct. Her autoimmune condition has progressed due to lack of proper medication. We're stabilizing her now, but there's a complicated road ahead." Anna clutched her teddy bear tighter, her small fingers digging into the worn fabric. The physician knelt to the child's level, offering a reassuring smile. "Your mama is strong, just like you." Michael Johnson listened intently as the doctor detailed the challenges ahead. Without proper documentation, insurance coverage would be minimal at best. The medication Laura needed wasn't inexpensive, and the follow-up care would require multiple appointments. "The social worker will need to meet with you tomorrow," Dr. Costa added, glancing at Anna with concern. "The standard procedure when a child's primary caregiver is hospitalized without other family present." Michael's mind whirled with possibilities. He'd seen too many families torn apart by bureaucracy and circumstance. The little girl who had trusted him enough to seek his help this morning now sat beside him, her future suddenly uncertain. "What about temporary guardianship?" he asked, surprising himself with the words, "I live with my mother, Rosa." "Our home is just 15 minutes from here." Dr. Costa raised an eyebrow. "That would need to be arranged through proper channels, but it could certainly help Anna avoid emergency placement." Michael turned to the 7-year-old, whose brown eyes watched him with complete trust. "Anna, would you be okay staying with me and my mother while the doctors help your mama get better? Rosa makes the best chocolate chip pancakes in Savannah." Anna looked toward the hospital room where her mother lay, then back to the officer. "Will I still get to visit Mama?" "Every day," Michael promised. "We'll bring flowers and books and whatever else she needs." The child nodded slowly, her small hand finding his. "Okay." Michael squeezed her fingers gently. "I'll make the arrangements right away." As Dr. Costa walked away to continue her rounds, Michael pulled out his phone to call his mother. He watched Anna staring at the door to her mother's room, still clutching her bear, her shoulders carrying a weight no child should bear. "Rosa, it's me," he said when his mother answered. "I need your help with something important. There's someone special I'd like you to meet." The sun had already set by the time Michael Johnson's car pulled into the driveway of his childhood home. Anna sat quietly in the back seat, her ragged teddy bear clutched tightly against her chest, her eyes wide with uncertainty. The events of the day had left the 7-year-old exhausted, yet she remained vigilant, as if afraid to let her guard down. "We're here, Anna," Michael said gently, opening the car door for her. "My mother is excited to meet you." The modest 2-story house glowed with warmth, golden light spilling from the windows onto the well-kept front yard. As they approached the porch, the front door swung open, revealing Rosa Johnson, a woman whose face bore the gentle lines of wisdom and kindness. "You must be Anna," Rosa said, immediately kneeling to meet the child at eye level, despite her aging knees. Her voice was soft and melodic, with just a hint of an accent. "I've heard how brave you were today." Anna shifted from foot to foot, still clutching her bear. "I just did what Mama told me to do if something was wrong," she whispered. "Well, you did exactly right," Rosa assured her, offering her hand. "Are you hungry? I made chicken soup and cornbread." The aroma of home-cooked food wafted from the kitchen, and Anna's stomach growled in response. Michael smiled, placing a reassuring hand on the little girl's shoulder. "Mom's soup is the best in Savannah." Inside, the living room was a testament to decades of family history. Photographs lined the walls and shelves. Michael as a child, Rosa with her late husband, family gatherings spanning generations. Anna was drawn to them immediately, her eyes lingering on images of happy faces and celebrations. "That's Michael when he was just a bit older than you," Rosa explained, pointing to a photo of a gap-toothed boy holding a baseball, always wanting to help people, even then. For the first time that day, Anna's grip on her teddy bear loosened slightly. The officer prepared a place for her at the kitchen table, while his mother ladled steaming soup into colorful bowls. The familiar domestic routine, the clinking of spoons, the tearing of cornbread, the gentle conversation, created an atmosphere of normalcy that had been missing from Anna's life. "Tomorrow we'll see your mama first thing," Michael promised as he watched the child slowly eat. The doctors are taking good care of her. As the evening progressed, Rosa showed Anna to a small guest room with fresh linens and a nightlight. "If you need anything at all, I'm just down the hall," she assured the child. That night, tucked under a patchwork quilt reminiscent of the one from her own home, Anna felt something she hadn't experienced in days, a glimmer of safety, a fragile hope that perhaps everything might somehow be okay. The aroma of Rosa's homemade chicken stew filled the modest dining room as Anna sat at the table, her legs swinging beneath her chair. The warm light cast a golden glow over the three of them, a makeshift family brought together by circumstance. Anna's teddy bear sat propped against a spare chair, watching over their meal like a silent guardian. "My mama always makes our birthdays special," Anna said, carefully blowing on a spoonful of stew. "Last year, she couldn't afford a cake from the bakery, so she stayed up all night making one herself. It was shaped like a butterfly because I love butterflies." Michael smiled as he passed the breadbasket to the child. He noticed how Anna's eyes lit up when she spoke about Laura, revealing the deep bond between mother and daughter. "She cuts my sandwiches into hearts for school," Anna continued, gaining confidence as Rosa and Michael listened attentively. "And at Christmas, we make decorations from things we find outside. Pine cones and twigs and pretty leaves. Mama says nature gives the best presents if you know how to look." Rosa nodded encouragingly. "Your mother sounds very creative." "She is!" Anna's voice grew animated. "When I feel sad, Mama takes me for what she calls beauty walks. We have to find 5 beautiful things before we go home. Even on the hardest days, she says, beauty is waiting if we open our eyes to see it." The little girl's fork paused midway to her mouth. "Once, when she was really sick and couldn't get out of bed, we did a beauty walk just looking out our window. We found a bird building a nest, clouds that looked like dragons, and the way sunlight made rainbows on the wall." Rosa reached across the table and gently squeezed Anna's hand. "It takes a strong little girl to be so brave and loving. Your mama must be very proud." Anna ducked her head, suddenly shy at the praise. "I just want her to get better." "And she will," Michael assured her, his voice carrying the certainty of a promise. As Rosa served apple cobbler for dessert, Anna looked around the warm kitchen with its hanging plants and family photos. She noticed a picture of Michael as a child, grinning with a missing front tooth, his mother's arm around his shoulders. For the first time in days, perhaps longer, Anna felt a sense of belonging she hadn't known she was missing, the comfort of a home where worry didn't hang in the air like a storm cloud. When Rosa tucked her into bed later that night in the spare room, Anna whispered, "I think this would count as all 5 beautiful things on our beauty walk." Rosa kissed her forehead, understanding exactly what she meant. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the windows as Michael Johnson and his mother prepared for their hospital visit. Rosa carefully selected the brightest blooms from her garden, vibrant zinnias, delicate daisies, and fragrant lavender, arranging them in a simple glass vase. "Do you think Mama will like these?" Anna asked, her small fingers gently touching a yellow petal. "She'll love them," Rosa assured her, wrapping an arm around the child's shoulders. "Flowers always bring a little sunshine into hospital rooms." When they arrived at Savannah General, Anna clutched her ragged teddy bear tightly, her eyes scanning the corridor anxiously. The antiseptic smell and bustling activity made the little girl press closer to Michael's side. The officer gave her hand a reassuring squeeze as they approached Laura Brown's room. The moment they entered, Laura's exhausted face transformed. Despite the IV tubes and monitoring equipment surrounding her bed, her eyes shone with joy at the sight of her daughter. Anna rushed forward, carefully climbing onto the edge of the bed to give her mother a gentle hug. "My brave girl," Laura whispered, stroking Anna's messy brown hair. "I've missed you so much." Rosa stepped forward with the homemade bouquet. "These are from my garden," she said warmly. "I thought they might brighten your room a bit." Laura's eyes welled with tears. "They're beautiful. I don't know how to thank you both for taking care of Anna." While the three chatted, Michael stepped into the hallway, phone in hand, his face set with determination as he navigated the complex web of social services. He spoke with 3 different departments, explaining Laura's situation with patient persistence. Between calls, he consulted with the hospital's financial assistance office, working to secure emergency medical aid that would cover Laura's treatment. Back in the room, Rosa had settled into a chair beside the bed with a children's book she'd brought from home. Anna curled up against her mother's side as the older woman read, her gentle voice bringing the story to life. Laura watched them, amazement and gratitude evident in her expression. "She's been wonderful with Anna," Michael said quietly, returning to stand beside Laura's bed. "My mother always wanted grandchildren." "You've both been angels," Laura replied, her voice breaking slightly. "I was so scared of what might happen to Anna if—" Michael shook his head. "That's not something you need to worry about anymore. We're going to make sure you both get the support you need." As the morning progressed, the room that had once felt sterile and cold transformed into a space filled with stories, gentle laughter, and the sweet scent of garden flowers, a temporary sanctuary where strangers were rapidly becoming family. For 3 days straight, Officer Michael Johnson barely slept. When he wasn't at the station, he was making calls, filing paperwork, and navigating the labyrinthine bureaucracy of healthcare and social services. His determination became a force of nature that nothing could stand against. "I've got good news," Michael announced as he entered Laura Brown's hospital room, where Anna sat coloring beside her mother's bed. The exhaustion in his eyes was overshadowed by triumph. "We've secured emergency medical assistance that will cover your treatment and ongoing medication." Laura's eyes welled with tears. "How did you manage that?" "Let's just say I know people who know people," he replied with a gentle smile. In truth, he'd called in every favor he'd accumulated in 23 years of service, even reaching out to the mayor's office when doors seemed closed. The documents that had been lost during their move, birth certificates, social security cards, insurance information, were now being expedited through the system. Michael had personally visited 3 government offices, explaining the urgency of the situation to increasingly sympathetic administrators. "That's not all," he continued, pulling up a chair. "I've arranged a meeting with a social worker named Maria Thompson. She's one of the good ones, fair, compassionate, and she always puts families first." Anna clutched her teddy bear tighter. "Oh, is she going to take me away from Mama?" Michael knelt beside her. "No, sweetheart. The meeting is to make sure that doesn't happen, to show her that your Mama has support now and that you two belong together." Rosa Johnson arrived later that afternoon, bringing homemade soup and fresh bread. "You need your strength," she told Laura, arranging the food on the hospital tray. "A mother needs her energy to fight for her family." When Maria Thompson entered the room the following day, clipboard in hand and expression professionally neutral, she found not a desperate mother and frightened child, but a family circle. Laura sat upright in bed, color returning to her cheeks. Anna was reading aloud from a book Rosa had brought. Michael stood by the window, watchful and protective. Maria observed them quietly before introducing herself. As she interviewed each person, taking careful notes, her professional demeanor softened. She watched how Anna moved between her mother and Rosa with growing confidence. She noted how Michael spoke of resources already secured and plans already in motion. "In my 15 years as a social worker," Maria finally said, closing her notebook, "I've rarely seen such a strong support network form so quickly around a family in crisis." She smiled at Anna. "You found some pretty amazing helpers when you ran for that police car." The tension in the room dissolved like morning mist. For the first time since that desperate Tuesday morning, hope felt not just possible, but certain. The social services office felt too cold and formal for such an important moment in their lives. Anna Brown sat between her mother and Officer Michael, her small legs swinging nervously beneath the chair. She clutched her teddy bear tightly against her chest, its worn fabric offering silent comfort. Maria Thompson reviewed the case files one last time before looking up at the anxious faces before her. The social worker had seen countless families in crisis, but something about this particular case touched her deeply. "Miss Thompson," Anna began, her voice small but determined, "I just want to stay with my mama. Officer Michael and Donna Rosa are helping us be a family again." She reached for her mother's hand, their fingers intertwining with practiced familiarity. Laura's eyes welled with tears. Though still weak from her hospital stay, she straightened her posture and spoke with unwavering conviction. "My daughter is everything to me. I know I've struggled, but with the support system we now have, I can be the mother Anna deserves." Michael Johnson leaned forward, his uniform crisp and authoritative. "In my 23 years of service, I've never met a more devoted mother or braver child. My mother and I are committed to supporting them for as long as they need." Maria nodded, making notes in her file. She'd visited both homes, the small blue house on Magnolia Lane, where Laura and Anna lived, and the Johnson residence where Anna had stayed during her mother's hospitalization. Both spaces reflected love and care in different ways. "I've spoken with Dr. Costa at the hospital," Maria explained. "She's confirmed that with proper medication and follow-up care, your condition is manageable, Mrs. Brown." Laura nodded gratefully. "The hospital has already connected me with their assistance program. I won't miss doses again." Maria closed her folder and smiled, her decision already made. "With the care and support you have, I see no reason to separate you. Anna, you're safe. Laura, you'll get the help you need." The tension in the room dissolved instantly. Ina leapt from her chair and threw her arms around her mother's neck. Laura held her daughter close, tears streaming down her face. Michael discreetly wiped his own eyes, the weight of responsibility lifting from his shoulders. What had begun as a routine patrol had transformed into something profound, a family saved, a community strengthened. "We'll schedule follow-up visits," Maria continued, "but I'm confident you're on the right path." As they left the office together, relief and gratitude filled the air around them. The sunshine outside seemed brighter somehow, a perfect reflection of the hope that now illuminated their future. The old blue house on Magnolia Lane had transformed in the weeks since Laura Brown returned home. What was once a place of struggle now bloomed with new life. Michael Johnson and his mother, Rosa, had organized a network of support that spread through their neighborhood like wildfire. Every morning, fresh flowers appeared on the Browns' porch, Rosa's garden providing splashes of color that Anna eagerly arranged in mismatched vases throughout their home. The refrigerator, once nearly empty, now held carefully prepared meals, each container labeled with warming instructions and encouraging notes. "Look, Mama," Anna exclaimed one afternoon, holding up a stack of children's books someone had left. "New stories for bedtime." Her eyes sparkled with excitement. The ragged teddy bear still clutched under one arm. Laura watched her daughter from the couch, strength gradually returning to her body. The autoimmune condition that had nearly taken her life was now properly managed with medication that Michael had helped secure through a patient assistance program. The once lost documents were replaced, neatly organized in a folder on the kitchen counter. The community's kindness manifested in countless ways. A teacher from the local school brought homework and lessons so Anna wouldn't fall behind. The neighbor across the street took to doing their laundry, returning clothes neatly folded and smelling of sunshine. Even the mail carrier began leaving small treats for Anna with their deliveries. "It's like having 100 guardian angels," Laura whispered one evening as she watched Michael hang a repaired family photo back on the wall. Her eyes welled with tears. "I don't know how to repay you, any of you. We were invisible before, just struggling through each day." Rosa, who was teaching Anna to make tortillas in the kitchen, wiped her hands on her apron and came to sit beside Laura. She took the younger woman's hands in her own weathered ones. "The only thing you owe is to pay it forward when you can," she said softly. "Family is who shows up for you. Before Michael found you, you were alone. Now you have us." Laura's tears flowed freely now. "I was so afraid they would take Anna away." "Not while we're here," Michael promised from across the room. He had become a fixture in their lives, stopping by after shifts, bringing groceries, and sometimes just sitting quietly while Anna showed him her drawings. That night, as Laura tucked Anna into bed beneath fresh sheets, she felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Hope. Their little blue house wasn't just shelter anymore. It had become a true home, filled with love that extended far beyond its four walls. 1 year after that fateful Tuesday morning, Laura Brown stood at her kitchen window, watching spring flowers bloom in the garden that Rosa Johnson had helped plant. The medication bottles on the counter were neatly organized, no longer a source of stress, but a reminder of how far they'd come. Laura's cheeks had regained their color, and her hands no longer trembled as she prepared breakfast. "Anna, sweetheart, you'll be late for your presentation," she called, smiling as her daughter bounded into the kitchen, no longer in a wrinkled dress, but wearing a bright yellow outfit she'd picked out herself. "Do you think they'll like my story, Mom?" Anna asked, her brown hair now neatly braided. Rosa had taught Laura the technique during their Sunday afternoon visits. Laura knelt down, straightening Anna's collar. "They're going to love it because it's true, and because you're telling it." Michael arrived right on schedule, his patrol car pulling into their driveway. What had begun as weekly check-ins had evolved into family dinners, holiday celebrations, and a bond that transcended obligation. He no longer came in uniform to their home. Today, he was simply Michael, their family. "My two favorite ladies ready for the big day?" he asked, accepting the travel mug of coffee Laura offered. At Savannah Elementary, Anna's second-grade classroom buzzed with excitement for Community Heroes Day. When her turn came, Anna walked confidently to the front, clutching not her old teddy bear, but a small photo album. "My hero story isn't about superheroes," she began, her voice clear and strong. "It's about my mom, who taught me to be brave even when she was scared. It's about Officer Michael, who promised to help us and kept that promise. And it's about Donna Rosa, who showed us that family can grow in the most unexpected ways." As Anna shared their journey, parents and teachers dabbed at their eyes. She showed pictures, Laura in the hospital, Michael and Rosa's first dinner with them, the four of them at Anna's birthday party, and finally, Laura's graduation from her medical assistant program. "My mum says that families aren't just who you're born with," Anna concluded, her eyes finding Laura, Michael, and Rosa in the back of the classroom. "Yeah, they're who loves you when you need it most." The applause was thunderous. Later, as they walked home together, Laura, Anna, Michael, and Rosa, their footsteps fell in perfect rhythm. The small blue house on Magnolia Lane now had 4 rocking chairs on the porch instead of 2. Anna skipped ahead, turning to face them with a smile that outshone the Georgia sun. She knew in her heart that her family's story had only just begun.